How is it possible that an airline with one of the most modern fleets in Europe, record breaking passenger numbers, and unprecedented revenue growth is suddenly staring down the barrel of a financial catastrophe? For years, Latvia held one massive trump card over its Baltic neighbors, aviation dominance. While surrounding countries grew into massive economic powerhouses, Riga maintained its status as the undisputed capital of the skies. Thanks to its national flag carrier, airBaltic, a tiny country of under 2 million people managed to build a fiercely powerful regional transit hub. But that regional dominance is rapidly slipping away. Neighboring countries are catching up incredibly fast, aggressively building out their own airport networks and quietly stealing away crucial market share. As the competition closes in and the passenger gap vanishes, Latvia literally cannot afford to fail. Yet, a quiet panic is gripping the nation. Behind the closed doors, the terrifying reality of keeping this airline alive is finally setting in, with rival airline CEOs openly predicting their bankruptcy and the company burning through millions in cash. Latvia faces a brutal ultimatum. Are they flying a national treasure, or are taxpayers funding a multi-million euro black hole that is about to implode? To understand this paradox, we have to look back at how this airline was born out of pure survival. Back in 1995, the original Latvian flag carrier, Latavio, collapsed into insolvency after unsuccessful privatization attempts. The Latvian government scrambled and created airBaltic out of the ashes. For decades, it thought to survive in chaotic post-Soviet aviation market, operating a patchwork fleet and suffering through massive financial scandals around 2011. But then, airBaltic executed one of the most brilliant strategic pivots in modern aviation. They threw out the old playbook and bet the entire future of the company on a single, unproven aircraft. In December 2016, airBaltic became the global launch operator for what was then known as the Bombardier CS300, now world famous as the Airbus A220-300. This bold gamble completely transformed their brand, allowing airBaltic to create a unique hybrid product by splitting the cabin into business and economy class. I fly with them quite often, and honestly, it is a genuinely great airline. In business class, they offer true legacy, experience with warm, multi-course meals and lounge access, earning massive praise from travelers. Down in economy, the physical airplane is beautiful. Passengers constantly highlight the massive windows, the quiet cabin, and the surprisingly generous legroom. But to truly understand their massive passenger numbers, you have to look at how aggressively they have expanded their footprint outside of Latvia. airBaltic no longer relies solely on Riga. They have established permanent operational hubs in Vilnius, Tallinn, and Tampere. To capture the lucrative winter leisure market, they have also established seasonal bases in the Canary Islands, operating out of Gran Canaria and expanding into Tenerife. From these strategic bases, they have built an incredibly massive network operating over 130 direct routes across Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. On paper, having this beautiful dual class cabin on a single aircraft type looks like a hypergrowth miracle. They built one of the most envied uniform fleets in the world, consisting entirely of 55 state of the art Airbus A220s. In 2025, the airline flew 5,200,000 passengers across its network, and its total revenue reached 779 million euros. But the financial success of this model relies entirely on keeping those seats completely full. By the first quarter of 2026, their average seat load factor dropped to 74.8%. When you are financing highly expensive, brand new aircraft and a full quarter of your seats are flying empty across the network, your profit margins completely evaporate. In the first quarter of 2026 alone, the airline posted a staggering net loss of 70 million euros. Just as their load factor started to slip, global geopolitics dealt a devastating blow. The aviation industry operates on a razor-thin margins, and fuel is its biggest vulnerability. In early 2026, the escalating geopolitical conflict involving Israel and Iran triggered a catastrophic energy crisis, forcing the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Crude oil prices skyrocketed, with Brent crude surging past $120 per barrel and hitting a peak near $126. For massive legacy airlines, this is a painful squeeze. For a highly leveraged, cash burning carrier like airBaltic, it is an existential threat. The soaring cost of simply filling the tanks of the A220s has completely eroded any organic profit margins they had left. Because they're bleeding cash at such a rapid pace, the highly anticipated savior, the long promised initial public offering, IPO, has been completely stalled. This massive cash panic leads directly to the corporate chess move that recently made global headlines. The global aviation titan Lufthansa Group stepped in and bought a minority 10% stake in airBaltic for 14 million euros. To casual observers, this looked like a massive stamp of approval and a financial lifeline from Germany. But here is the cold economic truth. Lufthansa didn't buy into airBaltic out of charity. They did it because airBaltic is a goldmine for premium outsourced capacity, because airBaltic cannot make enough profit flying regular passengers out of the small Baltic domestic market. Amidst this massive fuel shock, they have been forced to pivot their entire business model. They are operating as a glorified rental agency, wet leasing a massive portion of their advanced jets and cruise directly to the Lufthansa Group to fly German, Austrian, and Swiss routes. This raises a highly sensitive question. Is airBaltic still a proud national carrier, or have taxpayers accidentally subsidized a premium regional feeder fleet for Germany's aviation monopoly? This all builds to an impending, massive financial deadline. Following the Lufthansa's investment, the Latvian government still owns 88.37% of the airline, and they are trapped. Earlier in 2026, they had to issue an emergency 30 million euro short term loan just to keep the airline afloat through the summer, and that loan comes due at the end of August. To survive the upcoming winter season and stabilize their balance sheet, airBaltic desperately needs a massive new capital injection, but the government is bound by strict European fiscal rules and maxed out state budgets. They physically and legally don't have the hundreds of millions of euros required to keep hand feeding the airline without severely cutting funding for regular citizens. As the clock ticks down in 2026, a definitive decision must be made. Latvia has to find a massive private investor willing to take on the heavy risk or face the unthinkable reality of watching the crown jewel of Baltic aviation face liquidation. In the brutal economics of modern aviation, having the best planes in the sky simply doesn't matter if you can no longer afford to keep the lights on. But now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever flown with airBaltic on any of their regional or European routes? What was your actual experience with their hybrid business and economy model on the Airbus A220? Let me know in the comments down below. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next case study.